Most people believe that what they think, visualize, or emotionally desire will eventually show up in their physical world. They study techniques, rehearse affirmations, and monitor their energy, believing they are aligned. But there's a hidden flaw built into that entire process, one so subtle that even the most awakened minds fail to detect it. This flaw doesn't block your manifestations, it reverses them. And the terrifying part, you won't even know it's happening. That's the glitch. This audiobook isn't here to give you more surface-level tips or recycled motivational scripts. It's here to expose the silent mechanism that twists your perception just enough to collapse the very reality you've been trying to create. You might be speaking abundance, but projecting scarcity. You might be visualizing love while leaking rejection, and you don't notice because perception is not a passive lens. It's an active transmitter. The perception glitch will walk you through the invisible architecture behind this reversal, not by theory, but through an exploration of the mechanics of attention, identity mirroring, feedback distortion, quantum contradiction, and more. You'll begin to see why manifestation doesn't respond to what you want, but to how your perception quietly misrepresents that desire in the energetic field. This isn't a glitch in the universe. It's a glitch in you. Installed through conditioning, reinforced by emotional patterns, and disguised as logic, this error tricks your inner world into broadcasting the opposite of your conscious intentions. This audiobook isn't a fix. It's a recalibration of your inner instrument, because once the glitch is exposed, your true signal can finally broadcast. And when that happens, manifestation becomes effortless. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped transmitting in reverse. Are you ready to uncover the invisible mechanism that's been reversing your manifestations? If so, type "I'm ready" in the comments below, and let's break the glitch together. Give this video a thumbs up if you're ready to recalibrate your reality. And don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping your world. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The mirage of accurate perception. Most people move through life assuming that what they see is the truth, that what appears before them is a direct representation of reality itself. But perception is not a clear window. It's a filter, a shifting lens made of unspoken rules you didn't consciously choose. These rules act like silent boundaries, deciding what is allowed into your awareness and what is quietly ignored. You don't just observe reality, you observe what your perception is prepared to handle. This is the filtered light effect. The light of reality is always shining, but your perception is like stained glass. It only lets in colors your inner system is familiar with. So instead of the full truth, you see a version of it that's been allowed through your internal filter. This filter isn't built on logic or clarity. It's built on patterns. Your mind, in its effort to process life quickly, acts like an editing room. It cuts out entire parts of your experience before you even realize they were there. The mind's editing room takes what's happening and trims it down to match what has happened before. It favors repetition over truth. If something new appears, something that doesn't match your usual experiences, it often gets deleted, blurred, or redefined to fit the old pattern. You don't consciously decide to do this. It happens in a flash, faster than thought. The result is a version of reality that has been edited for your convenience, not for your clarity. And this editing doesn't stop there. The brain is deeply drawn to the familiar. Even if something is completely false, if it feels familiar, it will seem more real to you. This is the familiarity over fact bias. You may find yourself returning to the same ideas, the same judgments, even the same situations, because they match something that already lives inside your perceptual field. They're known, and the mind finds comfort in what it already knows. It doesn't matter if these situations make sense. It doesn't matter if they contradict your reason. Familiarity gives them a strange weight, and that weight often wins over logic. This bias is why many people get stuck in cycles. They aren't choosing the best outcome. They're choosing the most familiar one. To make things more confusing, what you see is never truly now. Every image, every movement, every face enters your awareness a fraction of a second after it has already happened. This is called perceptual lag delay. The world around you has already shifted by the time your mind finishes forming the picture, but the delay is hidden so well that it feels like you're experiencing the present in real time. This is an illusion. You're always one step behind. You never see the moment itself. You only see its imprint. Your brain creates the illusion of now by stitching together these slightly delayed snapshots and calling it presence. But in truth, you're always reacting to the recent past. Because of all this, what you experience isn't raw reality. It's an interpretation, a version shaped by your filters, editing patterns, biases, and delays. This creates what can be called the simulated interpretation reflex. You think you're experiencing life as it is, but you're actually reacting to a processed, simulated version of what the mind decided was important. You interpret events faster than you observe them. That interpretation isn't neutral. It's shaped by what's been allowed through the filter, trimmed in the editing room, favored for its familiarity, and delayed in your mind's timeline. This means your experience is not direct contact with reality. It's a simulation that feels real only because it's all you've ever known. In this state, life becomes a loop. You keep experiencing the same types of events, and you keep seeing them the same way, not because they are the only reality available, but because your perception doesn't allow alternatives to register. You can't recognize what doesn't make it through your filter. You can't question what you never saw in the first place. This is not about what you believe. It's not about your emotions. It's about the mechanics of perception itself, how it's wired to create a simulation that feels reliable even when it's deeply distorted. The deeper problem is that the more you rely on your current perception, the stronger it becomes. It shapes what you call truth. It becomes your reference point, even if it's based on an incomplete or inaccurate feed. Over time, the edited version of life starts to seem like the only life that exists. The illusion is not just in what you see, it's in how convinced you are that you're seeing it clearly. The more confident you are in your perception, the more invisible the distortion becomes. This isn't a flaw in your personality. It's not a weakness. It's the structure of how perception works when left unexamined. You're not perceiving reality directly. You're navigating through a hallucination that your mind builds so quickly and smoothly, you don't even notice it's a construction. This illusion becomes your normal. You move through a world made of selections, edits, and simulations, thinking it's the full picture when it's only the version your perception is willing to show. That is the mirage, a world that seems real only because your perception has filtered, trimmed, and rendered it into a shape that feels familiar and immediate. But behind that mirage, something else waits, something outside the simulation. Chapter 2, the feedback illusion loop. The way we experience reality often convinces us that the world around us is in constant feedback with our thoughts and actions. Yet in reality, this feedback can be a distorted illusion, a loop that reinforces itself over and over, trapping us in a cycle of misunderstanding. This is what can be called the feedback illusion loop. At its core, the mind's natural tendency to seek patterns and correlations can lead to a form of synthetic confirmation drift. When you repeatedly see certain outcomes, even if they are random, your mind will begin to draw false conclusions, believing these outcomes reflect deeper meanings or connections. In reality, these outcomes are no more than coincidences, but your mind shapes them into what seems like synchronicity. The repetition of these events gives you a sense that you're getting validation from the universe, when in truth, your mind is simply creating patterns where none exist. This synthetic confirmation drift clouds your judgment, making it harder to discern real signals from fabricated ones. Even more insidious is the delayed echo trap, where reality's responses to your actions lag behind. You might say something and wait for the world to react, but often reality's feedback arrives with a delay, tricking you into thinking the outcome is tied directly to your initial intention or action. This delayed response creates a false sense of immediate cause and effect, further reinforcing the illusion of a perfect feedback loop. The problem with this delay is that it distorts the true meaning of your actions. When you receive a response after some time has passed, you interpret it as the outcome of your intentions, even though it might not be related at all. Your brain, in its quest for meaning, convinces you that the world is giving you direct feedback on your choices, when in reality, the reaction may have nothing to do with your behavior. The delay itself becomes a trap, misleading you into thinking that everything you do is met with precise feedback, when the truth is much more subtle and random. Next comes the self-looping input bias, a psychological tendency that causes you to unconsciously recreate situations and experiences that align with your existing expectations. The mind, in its desire for predictability and control, seeks out information that fits into already established patterns. If you believe something will happen, you begin to act in ways that bring that expectation to life. You start to seek out experiences that validate your worldview, and in turn, you misinterpret reality's response as proof of your perception. It's not that the world is giving you consistent, accurate feedback. It's that you are subconsciously bending the world around you to match what you already expect to see. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle where you keep reinforcing the same beliefs, actions, and outcomes, convincing yourself that the world is behaving in alignment with your desires, even if it's simply your mind shaping it that way. The circular validation phenomenon is another key aspect of the feedback illusion loop. This concept explains how reality seems to reflect your perception of it, but not necessarily in an accurate or truthful way. Instead of showing you a true reflection of your actions or intentions, reality simply responds to the lens through which you view it. What you see is not a direct response to what you did. It's a response to how you interpret the world. The loop becomes circular because each time reality seems to confirm your perception, it reinforces the lens through which you view the world. In essence, the world is not validating the truth of your actions. It's validating the continuity of your perspective. The feedback you get from reality doesn't come from any objective standard of truth, but rather from the ongoing cycle of your perceptions influencing how you see the world. The feedback is thus an echo of your mindset, not a mirror of actual reality. It's a trap that reinforces itself by continuously validating your personal view, regardless of whether it is an accurate or distorted perception of the world. As this feedback loop continues, the glitch reinforcement cascade takes hold. Each time you receive feedback that confirms your distorted perceptions, the loop tightens, making it harder to break free. The more you experience feedback that seems to validate your perception, the more convinced you become that your lens is correct. These distorted results, however, are not signs of accuracy. They are simply the product of a faulty system, but because they align with your expectations, they seem more real, more valid, making it even more difficult to see past the illusion. As the loop tightens, you become increasingly trapped in a cycle of distorted feedback, unable to see the world for what it truly is. The more you experience these reinforcing glitches, the harder it becomes to recognize that the feedback loop itself is flawed. Instead, you become further entrenched in your belief that the world is reflecting back exactly what you've been perceiving all along. It's this reinforcement of distortion that locks the loop in place, making it seem almost impossible to break free from the false feedback you've come to rely on. This entire process highlights how easily the mind can become ensnared in a loop of misperception. The feedback illusion loop is not just a passive occurrence. It's an active process that shapes your reality without you even realizing it. You might believe you are receiving clear and accurate feedback from the world, but in reality, it's your mind creating patterns that aren't truly there. The more you buy into these patterns, the more entrenched you become in a self-sustaining cycle of distortion, making it harder to see things as they truly are. Breaking free from this loop requires the ability to recognize the fallacy within the feedback you're receiving, and that can only happen by questioning the very lens through which you perceive the world. Until then, the loop continues to trap you, reinforcing the illusion of a world that aligns perfectly with your expectations, even when it's all just a trick of perception. Chapter 3, Signal Reversal Syndrome. In the intricate process of human communication and manifestation, there exists a subtle but significant phenomenon known as signal reversal syndrome. This is a condition where the messages we send out into the world don't align with what we consciously think or desire. The first component of this syndrome, energetic mismatch output, occurs when what we express externally does not match our internal energetic state. On the surface, we may say we want something, a particular outcome or result, but the energy we radiate is in direct contrast to our spoken words. This mismatch happens because our emotions, body language, and underlying beliefs are often misaligned with the desires we articulate. Despite our best intentions, the energy we project can carry a different message than the one we consciously try to communicate. This misalignment can create confusion not only for ourselves, but also for others, as the energy we put out often communicates a hidden truth that our words fail to express. When we wish for something yet emit a conflicting energy, we unintentionally send out a contradictory signal to the universe or those around us. The energy of our desires can become blocked or distorted, preventing us from attracting the very thing we wish for. The next component, the message reversal field, explains how stress can drastically alter the emotional signals we send. Stress, especially when it becomes overwhelming, has a powerful effect on our emotional frequency. Instead of projecting the energy of calmness, confidence, or openness that might align with our desires, stress creates a reversal in our emotional output. When stressed, we often feel anxious, frustrated, or fearful, emotions that carry a very different energetic vibration than those of calm or contentment. Stress doesn't just block positive signals, it flips them. What was meant to be a message of attraction or positivity is transformed into something that repels or contradicts the intention. Stress can create a reversal that causes the universe or the people in our lives to respond to us in ways that feel counterproductive to our desires. The reversal of emotional signals caused by stress can lead to a complete misalignment between what we hope for and what we actually manifest. As the emotional signal flips, the energetic exchange becomes jumbled, and we find ourselves inadvertently attracting circumstances that run opposite to our true desires. Encoded withdrawal response is another aspect of signal reversal syndrome, which refers to the subconscious withdrawal of energy, even when we consciously desire to attract something. This phenomenon happens when, at a deep emotional or energetic level, we may fear the very thing we wish to bring into our lives. While consciously we long for a particular outcome, unconsciously we may send out a repelling frequency instead of an attracting one. This occurs because our fears, past experiences, or unresolved emotional patterns encode a signal that draws us away from what we seek. The unconscious withdrawal response is subtle but powerful. It creates an energetic barrier that prevents us from aligning with our desires, even though we may think we are pursuing something. Our deeper, unspoken energy may inadvertently be pushing it away. This form of resistance often goes unnoticed, yet it significantly impacts our ability to manifest the outcomes we desire, as our energy is unintentionally preventing their arrival. The concept of overcharge fragmentation occurs when emotional energy is overexerted, destabilizing the frequency we are sending out. When we become overly emotional, whether it be through excitement, fear, or anxiety, the intensity of our feelings can blur the signal, just as an electrical signal can become distorted if there's too much voltage. Our emotional energy can become fragmented if it is too intense or chaotic. When emotional charge becomes excessive, it disrupts the coherence of the signal we're transmitting. A steady, clear transmission is replaced by a fragmented one, with fluctuating energies that confuse both ourselves and others. This fragmentation is akin to static on a radio signal, distorting the message and making it hard for us to achieve our desired outcome. Excessive emotional charge creates interference, where the clarity of our intentions becomes muddied, and the universe responds with equally unclear results. As our emotional state destabilizes, the outcomes we desire become harder to manifest because our signal is no longer strong or coherent enough to attract them. Finally, the outcome echo distortion describes how an unchecked or poorly calibrated signal produces distorted results that seem to be an echo of the original desire, but they are not quite right. This happens when the energy we send out does not match the desired outcome we seek. The result is an inverted echo that may appear similar to what we want, but is fundamentally skewed. Imagine sending out a request for abundance, but what returns is a distorted version, perhaps an opportunity that seems good at first but turns out to be unfulfilling, or a relationship that feels promising but ultimately leaves us dissatisfied. Without proper calibration of the energetic message, the feedback loop becomes distorted, and the echo we receive is not a true reflection of our original desire. The inversion of the message causes confusion and a sense of unfulfilled longing. We may feel as though we're getting what we asked for, but upon closer inspection, we realize that the outcome is far from what we intended. This echo distortion is a result of the misalignment of our energy, emotional state, and external circumstances, which combine to create outcomes that are similar but not quite right. Together, these five components, a signal reversal syndrome, demonstrate how easily our energy can become misaligned with our desires. Each aspect, from energetic mismatches to emotional stress to fragmented signals, creates layers of distortion that block the fulfillment of our true wishes. The more we understand how these signals work and how they can be reversed or distorted, the better we can become at recognizing and correcting them. By becoming aware of the subtle signals we send and the ways in which they can be altered, we can take steps to realign our energy and ensure that we are communicating clearly with the world around us. Chapter 4. The Perception Lock Mechanism. Our perception is not as flexible or open as we might think. It is shaped and confined by a series of invisible mechanisms that lock us into a particular view of the world. One of the primary components of this mechanism is the blind spot reinforcement grid. This grid functions by filtering out experiences or information that contradicts or challenges our personal narrative. It acts as a defense mechanism, allowing us to maintain our sense of self and coherence in the world. The mind, in its effort to protect us from discomfort or confusion, instinctively ignores or distorts things that could threaten our beliefs, past experiences, or the story we've built around who we are. For example, if you hold a belief that you're not good enough, any evidence that might contradict this belief, such as praise or validation, may not even register. Instead, your mind might focus on perceived flaws or mistakes, reinforcing the narrative of inadequacy. This blind spot prevents us from fully engaging with reality as it is because we are unconsciously selecting only those experiences that support our existing worldview, reinforcing a limited understanding of ourselves and the world. Another key element in the perception lock mechanism is the autopilot override block. This mental block works by predicting outcomes before they actually occur, thus overriding the present moment and reducing our ability to truly experience life. When we operate on autopilot, we rely on our habitual responses and mental shortcuts to navigate situations without fully engaging with them. This can be beneficial in routine tasks, but it also means that we often skip over the richness of the present moment, automatically completing tasks or making judgments based on past experiences. When we're on autopilot, we are not open to new possibilities or outcomes because our minds have already decided what will happen based on previous patterns. This anticipation of the future without full engagement in the present moment limits our perception and distorts our experience of reality. The mind, in its efficiency, chooses familiarity over novelty, which can prevent us from being present with the actual unfolding of events. The predictive framing habit is closely linked to this process. It describes the way we interpret events through a mental framework that prioritizes what fits within our existing understanding rather than what the situation actually is. We all have a mental framework, or lens, through which we view the world. This frame is built from our past experiences, cultural background, and beliefs. When new situations arise, we tend to filter them through this frame, only allowing information that fits within it to come through. This means that we often see the world not as it truly is, but as a version that conforms to what we already know. For example, if you've had negative experiences in relationships in the past, you might approach a new relationship with suspicion or fear, even if the current partner hasn't given you any reason to feel that way. Your mind shapes your perception of the new relationship through the lens of past disappointments, ignoring evidence that might suggest a different outcome. This habit of predictive framing keeps us locked in old patterns, preventing us from fully experiencing or understanding new situations. An extension of this habit is the unseen discard filter, which refers to the unconscious process by which we delete new information that does not fit within our existing frame. Our brains are constantly processing vast amounts of data, much of it irrelevant or unrelated to our current focus. However, we tend to dismiss or discard any data that challenges our established beliefs or worldview before we are even aware of it. For example, if you hold a certain belief about the world, such as the idea that people are generally untrustworthy, any information that might suggest the opposite, such as acts of kindness or generosity, may be subconsciously ignored or minimized. The unseen discard filter ensures that we maintain consistency in our beliefs, but it also limits our understanding by cutting off information that could expand our perspective. This filter operates automatically, without conscious awareness, and shapes the way we engage with the world. As a result, we remain stuck in a limited view of reality, unable to see beyond the boundaries set by our previous experiences and beliefs. The closed-loop familiarization process locks us even further into this limited perception. Once something becomes familiar, we stop questioning its truth or validity. Our minds become so accustomed to certain patterns or ways of thinking that we no longer challenge them or seek alternative perspectives. This can apply to everything from our daily routines to the beliefs we hold about ourselves and others. For instance, if you've been in the same job for years, you may stop questioning whether it's truly fulfilling or if there might be something better suited to your skills and desires. The same goes for our beliefs about ourselves. Once we label ourselves in a certain way, such as not good at public speaking, we stop questioning that belief and simply accept it as truth. This closed-loop familiarization prevents growth and change because it creates a sense of comfort and stability in the known. We become less willing to explore new possibilities because we're so accustomed to what we already know, and we stop noticing the limitations of our familiar patterns. This resistance to change keeps us locked in place, unable to evolve or adapt to new opportunities. Together, these mechanisms, blind spot reinforcement, autopilot overrides, predictive framing, unseen discard filters, and closed-loop familiarization, work in tandem to lock our perception into a narrow and rigid framework. They shape the way we see ourselves, others, and the world around us, often without our conscious awareness. These mechanisms are designed to maintain stability and coherence in our lives, but they can also keep us trapped in outdated, limiting perspectives. By understanding these mechanisms and how they influence our perception, we can begin to recognize the ways in which we limit ourselves and start to question the truth of what we see. This process of questioning and opening our minds to new possibilities can help break the perception lock and create space for a more expansive and accurate understanding of reality. Chapter 5. The Inversion Trigger Pathway. The manifestation reversal. Bias is a subtle but powerful force that distorts our ability to manifest our desires. When we feel intense urgency about achieving something, we often unknowingly reverse the energy that we are projecting. This bias works by creating an emotional state of desperation where we become too focused on the need for a specific outcome, which in turn generates resistance. The more we push and hurry, the more we inadvertently sabotage the very results we are trying to bring about. This urgency feeds into a sense of lack, reinforcing the idea that the desired outcome is something far out of reach. The energy we send out into the world becomes one of wanting rather than having, which ultimately attracts more of what we don't want, further delay, frustration, and a sense of missing out. This creates a feedback loop where the more urgency we feel, the further we get from the thing we desire. Understanding how the feeling of urgency can lead to manifestation reversal allows us to step back and shift into a more balanced and less reactive state. The temporal crosswire error occurs when we misinterpret emotional spikes, confusing them for signals that are part of our current reality. In truth, these emotional intensities are often echoes from the past, triggered by past experiences or memories that the brain mistakenly associates with the present moment. For example, an emotional reaction to a situation in your present life might feel intense and urgent, but it may not truly reflect what is happening in that moment. Instead, it could be an old emotional memory surfacing, tricking you into believing that something from the past is happening again. This error distorts your perception of time and can lead to misguided actions or decisions as you mistakenly react to past emotions as if they were present. By recognizing when emotional spikes are a result of past echoes rather than genuine responses to current events, you can prevent unnecessary emotional reactions from influencing your actions and choices. The premature certainty lock happens when you act as though you already know exactly how things will unfold. This mindset can cause you to close yourself off from potential outcomes and solutions that might emerge naturally. When you are certain of an outcome before it happens, you effectively break the flow of the timeline by limiting the possibilities that could otherwise unfold. The certainty creates an energetic block as you stop being open to the unknown and to the process of unfolding. This lock confines you to a rigid mental script where you are convinced that only one specific outcome is possible. In doing so, you limit the potential for more organic, expansive, and diverse outcomes that could arise from the situation. The premature certainty lock prevents you from being truly present in the process of manifestation as you become focused on a predetermined result rather than allowing the natural progression of events to lead you to new opportunities. The impulse seeding glitch occurs when actions are taken from an inner impulse that is fragmented or not fully aligned with your true self. This type of impulsive behavior can result in outcomes that are reversed from what you intended. When you act out of a fragmented impulse, perhaps one born of momentary desire or external pressure, your actions may not align with the deeper, more intentional goals you truly wish to achieve. The impulse, in its fragmented state, is disconnected from a coherent and clear path, and as a result, the actions you take can lead you in the opposite direction of your desired result. Impulses, when not carefully examined and aligned with a clear intention, can push you further away from your goals instead of bringing you closer to them. This glitch shows us the importance of aligning our actions with a deep internal clarity and understanding, rather than following fragmented, fleeting impulses that may not serve our larger, long-term desires. Finally, the forward fixation paralysis refers to the tendency to become overly fixated on the future, which creates a narrow, restrictive path for ourselves. By obsessively defining the future in rigid terms, we lock ourselves into a narrow corridor of possibilities, essentially limiting our ability to adapt and change course. When you focus too much on one specific future outcome, you become less open to the unexpected opportunities that might arise in the present. This fixation on a fixed future state can create paralysis because it prevents you from being fully engaged in the current moment and from responding flexibly to new experiences and circumstances. The future, though important, is not something to be rigidly defined. It is something that unfolds based on the choices we make in the present. By narrowing our focus too much on a specific outcome, we cut ourselves off from the richness and flexibility that could come from a more fluid relationship with time and possibilities. These mechanisms, the manifestation reversal bias, temporal crosswire error, premature certainty lock, impulse seeding glitch, and forward fixation paralysis, work together to create a complex pathway that interferes with our ability to manifest our desires effectively. Each of these errors distorts the way we interact with the flow of life, often trapping us in cycles of unintentional outcomes. These distortions can be subtle, making them difficult to recognize, but they have a powerful impact on our ability to create the reality we desire. By understanding these patterns and recognizing when we are caught in one of these traps, we can begin to break free and allow for more authentic, fluid, and aligned manifestations to take place. These triggers show us the importance of releasing control, being present, and trusting the process of life, rather than trying to force outcomes through impulsive actions or premature conclusions. Chapter 6. Inner Architecture of False Certainty. The frozen framework syndrome occurs when we label something as truth and become locked into that belief, no longer allowing for any updates or adjustments, even when the situation has clearly changed. This mechanism works by freezing our perception of reality into a rigid framework. Once we categorize something as a truth, we become less likely to challenge or revise that belief, no matter how much new information or experience might suggest otherwise. This frozen framework creates a kind of cognitive inertia, where our minds are reluctant to alter their course, even when the context around us evolves. The belief becomes solidified, and we stop seeing things for what they really are. Over time, this syndrome can lead to a misalignment between our internal frameworks and the actual, ever-changing nature of life. What once seemed true may no longer hold up under new circumstances, yet we continue to interpret the world through outdated lenses, missing the nuances and depth of reality that lie beyond our static understanding. To break free from this syndrome, we must cultivate a willingness to question and update our frameworks regularly, allowing space for new ideas and experiences to shift our perceptions. The certainty substitution reflex is a mental shortcut that the brain uses to avoid the discomfort of ambiguity. Whenever we are faced with uncertainty or a lack of clear answers, the brain has a tendency to replace raw, complex experiences with simplified versions of certainty. This instinctual reflex helps to reduce mental stress by providing a sense of safety and predictability. However, it also narrows our perception, as we are no longer experiencing things as they truly are. Instead, we are simply accepting a constructed version of reality that feels safer and more comfortable, even if it doesn't reflect the actual complexity of the situation. This reflex often results in us simplifying the world around us into binary categories, right or wrong, good or bad, black or white, when the reality is often much more nuanced. The danger of this reflex is that it leads to a false sense of security, where we mistake certainty for truth and we stop being open to the richness of what is actually unfolding. We can fall into the trap of believing that everything can be easily understood and categorized, which limits our capacity for deep engagement with the world. The concept repetition loop involves repeating spiritual ideas or concepts over and over, which can become mental placeholders that block fresh perception. When we repeatedly rely on the same concepts, we become trapped in a loop of repetition that hinders our ability to see things clearly or to notice new insights. These concepts, though initially valuable, become mental crutches that we lean on instead of actively engaging with new emerging ideas. The more we repeat a concept, the more it becomes ingrained in our thought patterns, and the less we question its validity or applicability. This loop limits our ability to experience reality directly and instead forces us to interpret everything through the lens of these repeated ideas. In essence, the mind becomes stuck in a loop of old information, making it difficult to access the present moment with fresh eyes. This repetition can subtly prevent us from growing or evolving in our understanding, as we are continually cycling through the same mental models without challenging them or allowing new knowledge to surface. The internal overcoding collapse occurs when we layer too many ideas, concepts, or beliefs over our direct experience of reality. As we accumulate more knowledge and personal frameworks, we start to overcode our experiences with too many interpretations, explanations, and judgments. This overcoding creates interference in our perception, making it difficult to experience things as they truly are. Instead of simply observing or feeling a moment, we mentally analyze it through a complex web of filters and judgments. The result is that the raw data of the experience gets lost in the clutter of our internal narratives. Over time, this collapse of overcoding can prevent us from seeing the world clearly, as our minds are constantly bombarded with competing interpretations and explanations. Each new idea we layer on top of reality creates more complexity, but it doesn't necessarily bring us closer to the truth. It simply adds noise to the signal, blurring the clarity of our experience. By recognizing when we are overcoding an experience, we can learn to simplify our mental frameworks and allow space for more pure and direct encounters with the world. The predictive mindfall is the tendency of our minds to create predictions about the future that shape our present experiences in subtle ways. When we form expectations about how things will unfold, our brains begin to subtly influence events to fit that mental template, rather than allowing events to unfold freely. This mindfall creates a loop where our predictions silently guide our perceptions and interactions, often distorting reality to match our expectations. For example, if you predict that a certain event will go poorly, you may unconsciously behave in a way that contributes to that outcome, even if it wasn't inevitable. The mind becomes so attached to its predictions that it begins to filter and interpret experiences through that lens, making it harder to notice when things don't align with what we expected. Over time, this predictive mindset reinforces itself, as each event that confirms our predictions strengthens our belief in the accuracy of those predictions, further trapping us in a cycle of self-fulfilling prophecies. To break free from the predictive mindfall, we need to cultivate awareness and openness, allowing experiences to unfold without the need for them to fit our preconceptions. Each of these mechanisms, the frozen framework syndrome, certainty substitution reflex, concept repetition loop, internal overcoding collapse, and predictive mindfall are powerful forces that shape how we experience and interpret the world. They work together to create a sense of false certainty, preventing us from seeing things as they truly are. These mechanisms trap us in rigid mental patterns, limiting our ability to adapt, grow, and fully engage with the richness of life. By understanding how each of these processes operates, we can begin to loosen their grip and develop a more fluid, open, and receptive way of interacting with the world around us. Chapter 7. The Cloaking System of Belief Reflection. The semantic echo disguise operates subtly within language, where words that seem aligned with truth may carry hidden undertones that alter the intended meaning and shift the outcomes. Language is not simply about the words we speak. It is deeply influenced by the vibrations and associations those words carry. Even when we choose words that appear positive or correct, they can still harbor distortions beneath the surface, influencing the way they are received by others or even by ourselves. This echo effect often occurs unconsciously. For example, we may speak words of empowerment or love, but if those words are not truly aligned with our deeper internal state, the energy behind them may transmit an unintended message. This subtle dissonance between the outward form of the words and their underlying tone can lead to a mismatch between what we intend and what is actually perceived. The result is that the desired outcome, whether it's in a conversation, a situation, or a manifestation, can be compromised as the energy behind the words, not the words themselves, determines the effect. It's a reminder that words, while powerful, can often be deceiving if they are not supported by the energy that truly resonates within us. The verbal reflection mask is another layer of this cloaking system, where even though we may speak the truth with the right words, the energy behind those words can carry a completely opposite message. This happens because our verbal communication is not purely intellectual. It is deeply entwined with our emotional state, subconscious beliefs, and underlying attitudes. When we speak, we express not only the content of our thoughts, but also the invisible vibrations of our deeper mental and emotional conditions. So, while our words may claim alignment or truth, they can be overshadowed by the emotional undercurrent that reflects a contradictory belief or fear. For instance, someone may express outward positivity, yet their energy can reveal doubt or insecurity, which can send conflicting messages to others or to the universe itself. This discrepancy between words and the energy behind them can cause a distortion, preventing true alignment and hindering the manifestation of desired outcomes. It shows that communication is not just about speaking correctly. It is about ensuring that what we say and how we feel are in harmony. The behavioral illusion glitch occurs when actions that appear to be the right ones are still rooted in a distorted or misaligned foundation. Even though we may consciously act in ways that seem to align with our goals or values, the intentions behind these actions can be misdirected or rooted in unconscious beliefs that reverse the intended manifestation. This glitch happens because the behavior we exhibit is often influenced by more than just our conscious intentions. It is shaped by deeply ingrained patterns and beliefs that may not align with the outward actions. A person may engage in what seems like positive behavior, such as helping others or working toward a goal, but if their actions are driven by an underlying belief of scarcity or unworthiness, the energy behind those actions will not align with the desired outcome. These right actions, though they appear effective on the surface, may inadvertently create resistance or perpetuate a cycle that prevents true success. This highlights the importance of recognizing that actions alone, without the right internal alignment and beliefs, are not enough to manifest positive results. The symbolic agreement mirage is the phenomenon where intellectually accepting a principle or idea doesn't automatically ensure that your field or energy reflects that principle. On the surface, we may intellectually agree with a spiritual truth, such as the idea of abundance or love, and mentally acknowledge its validity. However, this intellectual acceptance does not automatically align our deeper energies or beliefs with the principle we claim to accept. The disconnect often lies in the subconscious level, where deep-seated beliefs and past experiences continue to shape our reality, even if our conscious mind agrees with the principle. For example, someone might intellectually embrace the idea of financial abundance, but still harbor an unconscious belief in lack or unworthiness, which prevents the energy of abundance from flowing into their life. The symbolic agreement mirage is a reminder that simply agreeing with an idea is not enough. It must be reflected in our deeper belief systems, energies, and actions for true alignment and manifestation. The tone displacement layer refers to the subtle energetic distortion that is carried by the tone of our communication, which can often override the meaning of the words themselves. This phenomenon occurs when the tone or manner in which something is said carries a hidden emotional or energetic undertone that can distort the intended meaning. Tone is a powerful form of nonverbal communication, and it holds a frequency of its own that can deeply affect how the message is received. A kind and loving message, for example, can be completely undermined if it is delivered with a tone that suggests impatience, condescension, or frustration. The tone displaces the true meaning of the words, creating a disconnect between what is intended and how it is perceived. This distortion occurs because the energetic vibration of tone communicates far more than the surface-level meaning of words. It speaks to the subconscious level, influencing how the message is interpreted. By becoming more aware of the tones we use in communication, we can ensure that our words and energy align to create the intended impact and outcome. In summary, the cloaking system of belief reflection works through these subtle yet powerful mechanisms: semantic echo disguise, verbal reflection mask, behavioral illusion glitch, symbolic agreement mirage, and tone displacement layer, to distort our communication and our manifestations. These systems operate below the surface, often unnoticed, but their impact is profound. The key to navigating this system lies in recognizing the invisible forces that shape our interactions, ensuring that our words, actions, and energy are in harmony to produce the desired results. Chapter 8. Exit Points from the Glitch Matrix. The opposite path method offers a powerful approach to breaking free from the loop of distorted perception that often governs our thoughts and actions. In this approach, rather than following the usual course of action, which may be driven by automatic responses or ingrained patterns, you intentionally choose to do the opposite of what your instinct tells you. This method works because it disrupts the automatic flow of habitual thought patterns and reactions that keep you stuck in a loop of false perceptions. By consciously stepping away from the familiar path, you create space for new ways of seeing and experiencing the world, which often exposes the limitations of your current perspective. The act of taking the opposite path interrupts the cycle of repetitive, conditioned behaviors, allowing for a more authentic, unfiltered perception of reality. It may feel uncomfortable at first, as it challenges the safety and predictability of old patterns. But in that discomfort lies the opportunity for true insight. This technique teaches you to question the automatic responses you have to situations, giving you the chance to recalibrate your perception, and in doing so, step out of the glitch matrix that distorts your reality. Uncoding rituals serve as deliberate actions designed to break the mental routines that solidify the distortions in your perception. Routines, both mental and physical, are powerful forces in shaping how we view the world and interact with it. These routines reinforce existing patterns, often without us even realizing it, locking us into a narrow, repetitive view of reality. Uncoding rituals involve taking specific conscious actions that disrupt these patterns. It could be as simple as taking a different route to work, engaging in a new form of creative expression, or even changing the way you interact with your thoughts. These actions serve to reset the mental defaults that limit your perception, creating space for new ways of seeing the world. When you step out of your usual mental routine, it becomes easier to recognize the distortions that have been influencing your experiences. Uncoding rituals help you break free from the constraints of your past conditioning, allowing you to see beyond the glitches that cloud your judgment and self-awareness. Silent perception calibration is a technique that involves pausing and removing all internal labels to fully sense what is actually present in the moment. The constant mental chatter and labels we place on our experiences create a filter that distorts our perception. We categorize things as good or bad, right or wrong, based on past experiences or preconceived ideas. However, these labels prevent us from experiencing things as they truly are. In silent perception calibration, you quiet the internal noise and let go of the labels that shape your understanding. This allows you to directly experience reality without the interference of your judgments or assumptions. When you remove these mental filters, you create the opportunity for fresh insight and a clearer perception of the present moment. It's a practice of letting go of the habitual mental constructs and allowing yourself to simply observe and experience without trying to interpret or control what you see. This simple act of pausing and clearing away the mental clutter brings you back to the raw experience of life as it is, free from the distortions that have shaped your reality up until that point. The outcome suspension state involves stopping the attachment to a specific result in order to re-enter a state of natural flow and alignment. One of the most common traps in the glitch matrix is the fixation on specific outcomes. When you become overly attached to a particular result, you place your focus solely on achieving that outcome, often disregarding the flow of life that is already unfolding. This fixation creates resistance as it introduces an underlying anxiety or fear about not achieving the desired result. By suspending the need for a specific outcome, you release the tension and allow things to unfold naturally. This act of surrendering to the process rather than obsessing over the result clears the way for genuine alignment and flow. You stop pushing against the current and instead begin to flow with it, trusting that the right outcomes will manifest in due time. By releasing attachment, you open yourself up to unexpected opportunities and experiences that you may have otherwise overlooked, allowing the universe or the natural flow of life to bring you what is truly needed at the right time. The observer relocation technique is a method of shifting your attention away from the self and towards the broader field of experience in order to expose hidden distortions. In the glitch matrix, the perception of self often limits your ability to see beyond your own biases and conditioning. By relocating your attention away from your personal viewpoint and toward the external world, you gain a more objective perspective. This shift allows you to see the larger context and recognize the distortions that are hidden in your experience. When you focus on the field rather than the self, you begin to notice patterns, interconnections, and elements of reality that were previously obscured. This technique helps to break down the egocentric view that keeps you trapped in a distorted loop. By observing from a broader perspective, you move beyond the personal biases that influence your perception, enabling you to see things as they truly are, free from the distortions created by your identification with the self. It's a practice of stepping outside of your own limited viewpoint and connecting with the greater whole, revealing the hidden distortions that keep you locked in the glitch matrix. In conclusion, the journey through the various glitches in perception, feedback loops, and the mechanisms that shape our reality offers a deeper understanding of the invisible forces at play in our lives, from the mirage of accurate perception to the exit points from the glitch matrix. Each chapter sheds light on how the mind distorts reality, creating a false sense of certainty and perpetuating patterns that hold us back. By recognizing these patterns and employing techniques like the opposite path method or silent perception calibration, we can begin to break free from the glitches that cloud our experience and reconnect with a more authentic perception of reality. Now it's your turn. If you like this content, you're sending out a signal to the universe that you resonate with the truth of these insights, and they begin to unfold in your life. If you share this, you're spreading the knowledge and helping others break free from their own perception glitches, amplifying the impact and creating a ripple effect of awakening. And if you subscribe, you're committing to consistently realigning yourself with new perspectives, ensuring that every future piece of content helps you evolve and break free from the patterns holding you back. So, like, share, and subscribe to keep this journey going.